Gentlemen, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us here at the NRS shopping experience here at the MGM Grand. Thank y'all very much for coming up. We've got a treat for you. If you can hear me, you want to come up here. These seats will fill up quick. We've got world champion, Mr. Clay O'Brien Cooper. Give him a hand right here, folks. Hey, hey, hey. Clay, how's it going, my friend?
Going pretty good.
Good, good. Talk about your run a little bit last night.
You know that pen of steers is the strongest set.
Yeah.
They'll run those steers 4 times total. Right. That'll be the 10th round steers. They're big and strong and good.
Sure, sure.
But they're not easy.
Right.
Kind of makes for a softer round. Hard on the headers because they're really leaving hard. And it looked like a lot of them went to the right.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to reach right there and you don't just knock a start,
sure.
It's going to become a hard shot. My partner did an excellent job.
Right.
Got him a good start, stuck it on him, got a neck. But the steer had really good timing and moved through the corner real good. And I felt like I had perfect position.
Right.
You know, when things happen that fast,
yeah,
you hope to hit the right spot.
Right.
And I felt like I really hit the right spot, really saw everything clear coming around there, and felt like I got a good loop down, felt like I was in time. But when you're used to seeing them go in it with both feet,
right.
And then I saw that my bottom strand kicked forward.
Right, sure.
And I didn't really know if I had him on the left side. And so I just made sure and picked my slack up to hold what I had. I didn't want to totally go out.
Sure.
And so I was glad to keep whatever I had.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I was hoping to catch 2 feet, but I didn't.
But in that pen of steers, I mean, you're fine, you know, as far as that deal goes. And
it's a long week, and that leg's liable to come in real handy come the end.
Absolutely. It'll probably do more good for you than it'll hurt you, I would imagine. So that's good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a laid-back deal right here. Clayo loves to answer questions. So at any time, just raise your hand and everything, and I'll turn it over to you, buddy.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. I'm here for Heel-O-Matic. So I'm a Heel-O-Matic endorser, and I rope the machine a lot. In fact, yesterday when I was doing a demonstration here, I would challenge anybody that they would rope it as much as I actually rope it. And I get a lot out of my practice on the Heel-O-Matic. When I'm at home, I usually rope it every day. I probably rope the machine more than I do live cattle. The reason is that I think that if you rope live cattle on your horses every day and you rope a lot on them, they tend to get a little nervous in the box. They might get a little pushy going down the arena. They just get worked up on live runs. And what's good about the Heel-O-Matic is I take the box equation out of it, and I just rope it out in the arena. And my horses don't get racy and they don't get sour to it. And I can work them and keep them progressing, or keep them sharp, keep them under control to where they're prepared and ready to go compete on. And how I do it is I make a run going down the arena, and then I make a run coming back. And like I said, I start right out in front of my boxes, but I'll start with the dummy and the 4-wheeler headed down the arena to start my routine. I start with my horse pointing this way, so that when my wife takes off and heads down the arena, then I'll start my horse going, and I start him in a left turn to where it starts him in his left lead every time. And then I let the dummy get out away from me a little bit on the live run, or the ones that I want to be more lifelike. And I'll let it get out away from me to where then I've got to go catch up to the dummy. And I want to get there just before the turn, generally, to where I can open my horse up and I'm going, you know, pretty fast. My horse is pretty much top speed, and right as the dummy starts to turn, the four-wheeler starts to turn like a steer turning, and simulating a real run. And then my horse coming in at a pretty good clip is more of a lifelike run that I make in competition, to where now the horse has to react. I have to pay attention to what I'm doing, because right in the corner, what I want to happen is that I want to be able to come in to my corner, but I don't want to get any closer than, say, this right here as I'm making my turn. I want to keep distance, number one, so I can see the steer clearly out in front of me. And if I hit my spot right and I'm in time, then just as soon as the steer squares up and I see my shot, I can get my throw. So it's the fastest available shot to set up as well. Yeah, the mistake that even the top guys make, if there is a mistake made, is that you end up getting too close to the steer in the turn, and then you end up trying to pull off and let the steer move. And so you kind of lose the momentum on your horse in the turn. And what you end up doing is kind of taking a shot with the steer leaving you, and you're throwing off a separation. And you can make that work, you know, from time to time, but it's not going to be as consistent as it would be if you're using your horse as in a forward momentum all the way through the turn, and then you're using him in his forward momentum all the way into your shot to help you get the loop into place. That's the most consistent, because then you've got the steer in the best spot all the way through the turn until you make your shot. When I'm coming down the arena, I don't like to break and then get to a spot and then have to pick my horse up and hold him into this spot right here. And when I compete, and the guys that I rope with, that are as good as they are, even at the jackpots, it seems like I'm just getting to this spot when they're turning the steer. Or at the rodeos, they're throwing even faster than that because the scores are shorter, and it seems like you're on the go trying to get your horse to this spot on time. It's not like you're getting there and having to back off. So that's why I set up my practice generally, most of the time, the same way when I'm roping the dummy, to set up that same feel. And then the horse is used to that same pattern, and so I'm practicing and preparing for what's going to happen in competition. I do occasionally, you know, if your horse does get racy, you know, we go to the rodeos and the ropings, and they usually bring in the fresher steers and the stronger steers for the open ropers. So everything's up tempo for us when we compete. So our horses will get kind of on the muscle and get racy because they're used to running fast and doing things fast and hard. So it is good to come back on the dummy as well when I come back home, and if I feel that my horse is kind of in that situation, then I can come slow it down with the dummy as well. And the speed that I usually go, about the slowest speed that I go is about 15 miles an hour. And that's where your horse is just kind of in a nice, comfortable lope. It's not fast. It's just kind of steady. And then about the fastest that I go is just a little over 20 miles an hour, which is a pretty good clip, especially if you let let it out as far as from me to you guys, and you let it start going, and my wife will get up to 20 miles an hour just like that. Well, you've got to run pretty fast to catch up to it. So regulating that speed is really is good, because we're constantly trying to keep our horses under control. We speed them up, we slow them down. Speed them up, slow them down. But they have to be responsive to when you pick them up and you go to slow them down and get control. They need to do it immediately. Otherwise, they're coming through you, they're getting too close. You end up pulling. As soon as you have to pull too much, then everything comes up, and tip comes up, everything comes out of position. Is there any questions so far? Yeah, forward, up in front and forward, but not standing totally up.
You're in contact.
Right. Yeah, I mean.
So you can ride your horse all the way around.
Yeah, and your contact and balance to stabilize your upper body and to hold it in a good position to get angle on your rope is the best contact is right through your thighs. I do. I squeeze a lot with my legs. I kind of ride with my knees, and being forward and having your butt not down in the seat, but basically up out of the saddle. But your contact is through the front, and then you can use that contact to stabilize your upper body, and then from your knees down you can ride. So. Right. Yeah, you can use your legs more. Your upper body doesn't get thrown forward.
I got another question. I got some young horses that heel on them all first, stuff slower and not so much pressure. How do you, on those young horses, to keep them kind of up, do you kind of keep them in your hand a lot, like never like dropping them? You keep them up and around the corner just to keep them off the front end? How do you teach them to always be on gathered up? Like when you're starting,
It comes through contact of
you kind of keep hold of them.
just a little bit. Yeah. You just kind of pick them up and you have them in your hand, not real strong, but just enough. And then you have to have a little bit of your feet kind of moving that hind end up under them, which lifts the front end and kind of frames them up.
All the way through that corner, and then you can, as soon as you're up, they'll be gathered.
Right. Well, they need to gather coming into the turn. When they start to try to drop their butt and they start to make their turn, the hind end needs to be the driver to where it's running up under them, and that front end is lifted up enough, and you've got the headset framed up, and everything is in a position to do that. And I like a horse that slides. You know, when you have a horse framed up and you have him lifted in the front end and his butt's down, then he's ready to use the hind end and slide. And that's the timing of the slide into your throw is what brings that all together. You know, you see these guys out here, they're so good at the timing of their horse's stop. You hardly ever see them be out of whack to where the horse is ahead of them. That stop and that slide is fit right together with that delivery, and the timing all comes together. It's key, very key part. It's all timing, yeah. It's all rhythm and timing. That's another thing too about the Heel-O-Matic that's good, especially I like this because it's so lifelike, and it looks like a steer looks. And the presentation of what you see is the same, pretty much is the same as a live steer. And so that timing, you know, when you're going a certain speed and that steer has a stride to it, what you'll find is if you hit that same speed and you just stay there 2 or 3 swings, 3 or 4 swings, your horse will be in the same exact stride of the steer. And that, you know, to teach a horse to do that, you need to be able to track. You know, when I was a kid, I grew up, and the big ropings, the most prestigious ropings were 8-headers and 10-headers out west in California and Arizona. And so the emphasis was on catching a lot of steers. And so you had to have a horse that would come in there and stay there and let you take a couple swings over their back and set it up to where you basically eliminate the misses. And so what I'm sure the guys that used to head for me when I was a little kid trying to learn, they hated seeing me ride in the box on the practice sessions because I'd track them all the way across the arena. But you know, a lot of the great ropers from that era, like the Camarillos, Al Bach, Walt Woodard, Denny Watkins, man, there's so many guys that could catch 2 feet every time. But they learned by tracking steers. Well, nowadays, you know, roping's changed so much, but a lot of that foundation still has to be learned. You know, there's a lot of kids that can come around the corner and they can just first hop steers. As soon as they switch, they can just get a loop down there because their hand-eye coordination is so good. But the difference is that everyone here at the national finals, they can rope a steer whenever they want to rope him. And they can come around the corner and they can set it up and they can track a steer 2 or 3 jumps to make sure and get him roped. And you saw it on the first round last night. And the advantage of the guys that was up towards the end, like the guys that are up toward the front, they kind of had to go at it because you don't know if it's going to be a tough round or what it's going to be like. And you're kind of assuming that it's going to be tough. Well, that round ended up being pretty soft. So the leg was placing up until the very end. But you had the top 3 teams. You had Trevor, Clay Tryon, Petska. The last 3 teams to go, they sit there and watch the whole thing. Well, the heelers didn't try to first hop their steer. They come around there and set it up and took a good swing over their back, had momentum on their horse to where they're not taking a bad shot. They're taking a 100% shot. And that's what it took to win money. So that's why these things are so good to practice on, is that you don't have to have a header now pull the steer all the way across the arena like we had to years ago. I can do this every single day on my machine. And so starting your young horses, keeping your old horses, like the horse I was riding here, he's real stoppy. And so the way I rope on him is that it's good just to keep him in shape. And I don't run it as fast on him. I put about 10 runs on him, and I go maybe 16, 17 miles an hour. Well, he's got to get going pretty good, but he's not all out. And then I keep him framed up through the turn, and then I turn him in there, and I get up over him, and I swing 2 or 3 times over their back and set it down and just keep him freed up. So he's not just looking to come in and stop, you know, right off the get-go. I use the hardest lay. It's medium hard. It's 3/8, and generally now it's either a 3/8 or a 3/8 full. So, and I use more of the full. the foal are a little bit bigger diameter, and they just hold on the horn a little better for me. Separation happens pretty quick when I try to keep forward momentum on my horse. I want him to stop just as soon as, well, he starts sliding as I start into it, but as my loop hits the ground is when I want complete stop with the front end. So he's sliding, and then as soon as my loop hits the ground is when I want the front end to come down and quit going. So as I start my delivery, it starts with my tip behind me when I come out of my swing, and he feels it, so he starts sliding, but that slide's helping me get it down there all the way. And so the timing of his dead stop is right at impact. You know, I had that question yesterday, and practicing on my horses, I don't try to get them top speed right off the get-go. I let them kind of creep out and kind of gradually build up speed, just to build a pattern to where, because I want to start, when the gate starts to open, I want to start creeping. But I want my horse in my hand, and I want to read the steer, and if the steer's going slow, I want to maintain my position and just go as slow as he does. And if he breaks fast, you know, I see him really leave, well, then naturally I'm going to try to match that speed. But practicing, I don't want to just go full bore. I want to gradually come out and build up speed more gradually, and then just get to the steer when he's turning, which will help you keep a little more control on that, because it's just the anxiety of wanting to run.
Yeah, when I usually started, he's all right, but after a run, 6 or 8,
Right.
like you said, when he makes the turn and he feels it, he stops.
Right. Right. And I do a lot of speed changes with my horse, just warming them up and riding them around. I'm constantly speeding them up a little, slowing them down, speeding them up, slowing them down. So they're just constantly and mentally, they're in a routine of slowing down, speeding up, slowing down. Not really.
You still deliver it like you're shaking hands. You don't change
Yeah,
it.
I mean, the way it's the same. I mean,
I didn't know if
I
you
don't.
deliver it different on steer that kind of gets heavy.
I
and
don't.
one that's taking hops like that one.
No,
It's good the same.
yeah.
I didn't know if you guys, I mean, y'all run so good. I figured y'all could change your delivery in mid throw.
The delivery changes, you know, a little bit based on position.
Right.
If he's over here, he's out there, he's right here under, you know, there's a little,
Your hand is the same
pretty much, yeah.
when you're letting go.
Right. Come on, guys. Questions?
When you want to meet the time of getting your horse there and forward moving, what happens when you're, working with lower number betters and you're getting there, they're fishing on, you're trying to keep that separation and get that time. Are you staying a little bit wider so that you can see that back in turn so that you can get that forward momentum coming in?
Yeah. Yeah, just keep more distance. Yeah, stay away from him until he starts to pull them out. See, that's what I'm looking for. That, in fact, last night, that was my whole emphasis, because everything's so tight and so small. in this arena, that it's real, and everything in you is wanting to do everything fast because you know it's going to be fast. So what I have to guard against is committing too early. And even though I know my guy, he's a quick draw, and I know when he hits that barrier, it's liable to just wham, be on him, that's what he did last night. But I still have to be patient and wait till everything turns and squares up, and then he's in a position where he can start pulling him. If I get there before any of that takes place, then I'm right here on top of him, ready to throw, and nothing's happening. And then if I get in this position immediately, I'm going to lose momentum on my horse. Now my horse is done. It's just like, well, I should be sitting on the fence post now and having him drag him by me, because now I've lost the use of my horse. So, but if I keep my distance, and that's what I felt like I did good last night. The only thing I took good out of it was that I hit the right spot, and everything stayed in front of me, and I was able to keep moving towards him, and I could see him and being in that position out away from him, I can see him the whole way. That everything's clear. As soon as you get on top of them, then everything almost it's like blur. So, yeah, and that's just, just experiment with that distance.
It's just hard to stay patient because you're waiting. You want to go on the second, third time, and sometimes you got to be patient. Let that happen. You can't do that on the third, fourth time.
Right.
To be consistent.
Right. And you know what? You can be faster doing it that way too, really, because you'll hit the right spot a lot more times doing it that way than you will getting in there being a little overboard, getting in too quick. Because you can't throw when you're on top of them. Anybody else? Got just a couple minutes, I guess. I did, over the years, I've went through lots of bit changes. But to be quite honest with you, my hands weren't very good. So, but it seems like the last 15 years or so, I've been able to kind of stay consistent with my bits. And I've kind of gravitated towards the Petska bit. I've got some Petska bits that are 15 years old, and I got about 5 of them. And it's the chain one. And all of my horses are in basically the same type of bridle. So what that tells me is my hand got consistent over time. But now I've got a young horse that's, I call him young, he'll be 6 this coming year. And he's just graduated into the Petska bit that I ride everything else in. So his mouth was just coming up. I rode him in a real light broken mouthpiece with a port. But there was just nothing to it. It was real light. And steadily, as I've been able to push him and speed him up and rope and get a hold of him, now he's come to the level that my other horses are at, bit-wise. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I don't go through near as many bits now. When they get pushy, I slow them down. And I'm always, like I said, I'm always working on speeding them up and slowing them down. Whenever I'm on their back, that's a constant routine. Whether it's a trot or it's just in a lope, it's constantly squeezing them, because I want them to respond to me squeezing them, where I can run that hind end up under them, and then I can pick them up in the bridle and lift that front end up, and I can gather them up and shorten that stride and just get them right here in my hand where they're gathered up. But to do that, there's just so much work of with that process, speeding them up, slowing them down, speed them up, slowing them down. And a lot of that is dressage. About 15 years ago, D. Pickett started studying dressage books. And it was amazing. Everything is collections. Like those horses, the Andalusians and stuff, the ultimate collection is a pee-off. It's what it's called, a pee-off. And it's almost like it's a jump straight up and a kick. And the only way to achieve that, and what they call it, is ultimate collection, where a horse can be loping and he's not going forward. They can lope him right here in a loping motion and they're not moving anywhere. And so that was really fascinating to me. It's like, how can you get a horse to do that? Well, it takes time. It takes just a good, firm hand that they trust, and then always collecting and pushing everything together. The front end coming to you and the hind end coming to that. It's fascinating to me. But that's everything that we work with in our horses. I mean, it's all, and the guys that are really good, you know, they're just naturally have a feel of how to pick a horse up. Like Jade Corkill has such a feel, Rich Skelton, the guys that can hit that corner consistent, they just have such a feel of gathering that horse up and making them come around there collected and give them the exact shot that they want. That's the ultimate in my book.
Ladies and gentlemen, the champ, Clay O'Brien Cooper, give him a hand.
All right, thank
Clay,
you.
thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it very much.